Hi, I'm Tappy and welcome to my OTK review for the Karazhan set. This video is going to be talking typically on a card by card basis about the OTK potential of each card. If a card does not have much OTK potential or zero, I will just not talk about it. This is not going to be one of those sort of reviews that talks about how strong a card is, although I might gush a little bit over certain cards because awesome. But yeah, let's just get right down to it. First up we have Arcane Giant, which as a giant is an 8/8 with a mana reduction effect, so there is some scope for an OTK. It is pretty much exactly the same OTK you'd get with a Molten Giant, so the old school Molten Giant OTK is Molten Giant with charge, then double faceless for 30 damage, and you can do the same here. Medivh the Guardian looks like that could be a fun card to play with, but for OTKs it's not that good. It's an 8 mana 7/7 Battlecry equip Atiesh, which is a 1/3 weapon which has the summoning portal effect, summoning stone effect I should say. So if you play say a 5 mana spell, when Atiesh is equipped you will summon a random 5 cost minion. If there is an OTK involving summoning stone or Atiesh, it is so RNG heavy it's not going to happen. The Curator is a very interesting card for setup purposes. It's a 7 mana 4/6 taunt mech, which is terrible stats, but it is defense. And the Battlecry draws a Beast, Dragon, and Murloc from your deck if present. Obviously, if you're playing a Beast or Dragon OTK or a Murloc OTK, it helps a little bit. Dragons, you're talking Alexstrasza, so drawing a very important OTK piece is important. More than that, I feel I will put it in most decks because I typically have 2 Cold Light Oracles in every OTK deck just to try and speed things along. This will definitely draw it, so I feel, yeah, it's a very useful card. Menagerie Magician is a 5 mana 4/4 with Battlecry, give a random friendly Beast, Dragon and Murloc +2/+2. It's a neutral so it can go in any class. For OTKs, it's got very limited potential. I can only see one OTK it's in, but it is there. So you pair it with Brand Bronzebeard and you buff up something to an immense degree, do a couple of other Battlecry effects, and there you go, there's an OTK. So you'll be seeing that probably pretty soon. That seems quite an easy one to do to start off with. Onyx Bishop is a 5 mana 3/4 minion for priests with the Battlecry, summon a friendly minion that died this game. So it's basically a vanilla statted 3 cost minion with the Resurrect spell attached to it, which is good for if you want to make say a Resurrect Priest, or in fact the only case you'd want to use this card is then, otherwise you just use Resurrect. But for OTK purposes it's not that useful. Say for example you wanted to make a Resurrect OTK and you're already using double Resurrect and you want to use something else just to push it over the edge into OTK range, you could use Onyx Bishop, or even better you could use Herald Village, which is only 1 mana more. So I just don't see a place for this in OTKs, unfortunately. Arcanosmith is a 4 mana 3/2 Battlecry, summon a 0/5 minion with taunt. If we were talking a year ago, then this could have seen some play as an OTK, a very specific OTK involving Warsong Commander, rest in peace. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen now, but it would have gone something on the lines of Warsong Commander, Brand Bronzebeard, Arcanosmith, so you get 2 0/5 minions with taunt, you bolster them up, you swap them with Crazed Alchemist, and away you go. Priest of the Feast is a 4 mana 3/6 priest minion, which whenever you cast a spell restores 3 health to your hero. It's not good for OTKs, it is good for survivability. I don't see a place for it in OTK decks because you just don't have the space. But yeah, go mad. It's a good card for priest, which is what they need. Protect the King is a 3 mana warrior spell. For each enemy minion, summon a 1/1 pawn with taunt. This is a pretty weak card in my opinion, in general, but for OTKs it's just not there at all, there's no potential. If Warsong Commander, rest in peace, was a thing, then yes, you could bolster the hell out of 5 minions and easily make an OTK. Unfortunately that's not the case. Cloaked Huntress is a 3 mana 3/4 minion for hunters, and the text reads, your secrets cost 0. This at first glance seems like a very strong effect, borderline OP. I wouldn't call it OP because, well, I'm not an expert on this sort of thing. However, for OTK purposes, it is probably best used with lock and load to try and get a massive Yogg-Saron. Not the most viable OTK, I grant you, but best case scenario for this card, you play Cloaked Huntress, you play lock and load, then you play 5 hunter spells and get 5 random hunter cards in your hand, hopefully all spells. It could also allow you to break the 2 overall in Hunter easier with lock and load, so that is something else to consider. It's pretty good. Pantry Spider is a 3 mana 1/3 beast with Battlecry summon a 1/3 spider, which is also a beast. So beast OTKs is where it's at for this card. Unfortunately, it just uses too many slots. On its own, it uses 2, and it's only got 1 attack each. Beast OTKs, generally, all of the damage comes from the board. So, say if you have 6 minions on board, you need at least 5 attack from each. Even if this is buffed up with 2 Timberwolves, it only does 3 damage. It's just not enough. Young Dragonhawk is almost always better because it acts as 2 minions in 1 slot. So even if you use this with Brand Bronzebeard, so Brand Bronzebeard plus Pantry Spider gives you 3 charge minions, but it takes up 4 slots, that's even worse. So I don't see a lot of room for this in an OTK, but it is possible. Zubot is a 3 mana 3/3 mech. Battlecry, give a random friendly beast, dragon and murloc +1/+1. It's basically a weaker version of Menagerie Magician. I've already specified an OTK involving Menagerie Magician, so you could use 2 of these in place of that. But it uses an extra card, so typically for OTKs it's going to be weaker. Kindly Grandmother is a 2 mana 1/1 beast for hunters with Death Rattle, summoning a 3/2 Big Bad Wolf, which is also a beast. It's very strong, but for OTKs we have beast OTKs obviously. So there is an interesting one involving Kindly Grandmother's Feigned Deaths with the Worgens, which buff Death Rattle minions. In doing this with Brand Bronzebeard, we can make a viable OTK, which I will be doing in the future. Deadly Fork is a 3 mana 3/2 rogue minion with Death Rattle, add a 3/2 weapon to your hand. So at first glance it's very strong, but I don't feel there's any OTK potential here. Maybe when Blade Flurry was still a thing, it would have been possible to steal Feign Death from a hunter and then do some sort of crazy weapon buffy, face smashy Blade Flurry thing, but as it stands, strong but not useful. Babbling Brook is a 1 mana 1/1 mage minion with Battlecry, add a random mage spell to your hand. This is just another way to break the 2 overall for mage spells, which is great. There's many ways to do it already, but one more is always welcome because it makes it that more viable, that more likely that you're going to be able to get all the spells that you need for doing a Malagos burn OTK most likely. Menasha Warden is a 6 mana 5/5 druid card with Battlecry, choose a friendly beast, summon a copy of it. This is a bit disappointing in that it's almost always a worse Faceless Manipulator for OTK purposes. I mean, for normal play you get a 5/5 vanilla body, which is useful at least, but for OTKs you can't give that body charge as a druid. It doesn't even have a beast tag, so even if you did steal a Tundra Rhino you couldn't use it as an additional damage source. There is one case where it could be better than Faceless Manipulator, and that is paired with Brand Bronzebeard. You would get 2 copies of the beast you wish to copy and a 5/5 vanilla, but for OTKs this is actually worse because the 5/5 vanilla takes up a slot. Violet Illusionist is a 3 mana 4/3 neutral minion. During your turn your hero is immune, so this is a very interesting card in general, but for OTKs it's only going to be interesting for Priest, possibly. So you've got Shadow Bombers, you've got Spawn of Shadows, and in the very unlikely situation that you get Tree of Life, you can turn it into Tree of Death. How you'd go about getting that from a druid when Tree of Life is barely used ever, I do not know. But yeah, it's an interesting card. Ivory Knight is a 6 mana 4/4 paladin minion. Battlecry, discover a spell, restore health to your hero equal to its cost. For OTKs this is useful. Well, yes, you get a body, yes, you get a little bit of healing, but mainly it's to break the 2 overall for spells in Paladin. So you could get a couple more Blessing of Might, so you could have a buffing OTK. Other than that, this card does not have a lot of utility. Medivh's Valet is a 2 mana mage minion, 2/3 stats, Battlecry, if you control a secret, deal 3 damage. This could be used for OTKs. I'm thinking you need at least Brand Bronzebeard to do 6 damage for 2 mana or 1 mana discounted with Thorson. Then you can probably bounce Medivh's Valet quite easily and do 30 damage from there. It might even be easier to do it with rogues, so you use rogue to steal a Medivh's Valet and a secret. Then you can use the Shadow Steps to deal a lot of damage with very little mana. Rogues are getting a few more steal mechanics in this set which will help with steal OTKs, so we have Swashbuckler, which is a 1 mana 1/1. Battlecry, add a random class card to your hand from your opponent's class. Add this to Undercity Huckster and Burgle. We can now get 8 class cards from your opponent easily, so that's very useful. And the other card they have is a 5 mana 5/6 called Ethereal Peddler. Battlecry, reduce the cost of cards in your hand from other classes by 2. So in some cases this will just replace Emperor Thaurissan. I've already mentioned Medivh's Valet is quite an easy way to get an OTK. You can steal the charge from a warrior. Priests, yeah, I'll take a 5 mana Prophet Velen. Shaman, like Wind Fury, obviously Bloodlust. We could steal Gromash, steal Aviana. There are a lot of things we can do with a steel deck, and I look forward to trying it. Last but not least, we have Barnes, which is an incredible neutral legendary. It's a 4 mana 3/4. Battlecry, summon a 1/1 copy of a random minion in your deck. So there are so many ways we could use this in OTKs. I'm just going to name Ragnaros, Prophet Velen, Malagos. They're the go-to expensive minions with awesome text. Stats do not really matter in this case. So burn OTKs are going to be amazing. This card is probably better for non-OTK combo decks, but for OTKs it's still incredible. I may have to do a separate video for all the combo potential, all the shadow stepping nonsense we could do. Pair this with Bran Bronzebeard and go nuts. That's all the OTK potential I could see at first glance. I'm sure there's much more. If there's anything I've missed, please leave it in the comments. Thanks for watching.